Hey everyone, spoilers for all things Star Wars, especially Obi-Wan Kenobi. You have been warned. Hello there! Marcus, that's the best I can do, I'm afraid. That's short notice. Welcome to another episode of The Script Department. I'm John. I'm joined today by Marcus and Brad to discuss episodes 5 and 6 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. We finally got to the end, and it has been an emotional roller coaster, for me anyway. Before we get into all that, be sure to check out our website, thescriptdepartment.net, for all the latest stuff that our global network of screenwriters get up to. Hit us up on social media. Links are in the description. We're on TikTok as well. Make sure to follow us there for daily content. And finally, if you haven't already, subscribe to our podcast. Wherever you get your podcast, just search for The Script Department. So, as I said, it's been an emotional roller coaster for me. I've made no secret of the fact that Attack of the Clones has always been my favorite Star Wars movie. Love the Obi-Wan Anakin apprentice Padawan master thing, and so to explore all of that again in this series has just been such a dream come true for me. I think hasn't been a perfect series, but I think if you're a Star Wars fan and this isn't ticking the boxes for you, I don't know what will at this point. I don't know. I think they did a pretty good job. What do you guys think? We'll talk about 5 and 6, but just what were your thoughts overall of the season?
Yeah. After you, Marcus, go for it.
Oh, man, yeah. I mean, what a thrill! It's a wonderfully self-referential, inward-looking series that kind of does exactly what it was always meant to do. I think it's meant to tell that story. We joked what seems like forever ago when we were discussing the Book of Boba Fett about me. Oh, it wasn't really that much of a joke that I wanted a very nice, introspective-looking, depressed Obi-Wan art house series looking around, and you know what? I got some of that, and I got a lot more. A lot more besides. So, generally speaking, pretty happy with it. I think it's done some interesting stuff.
I'm in a very similar place. Like, I loved it. I'm a Star Wars fan, so there were things in there I was like, oh my god, look at that! I can't believe this is happening. We're seeing this again, and it was wonderful. It was really, really wonderful. I think there was one or two bits of it that were almost too classical Star Wars for me, like namely the blasters not hitting anyone. Like, that's Star Wars. That is all about Star Wars. But for me, like, there's an evolution happened, like with Rogue One and films like that, where it's gone a bit further. So I'm really in the middle on it, and I've literally just watched it, so I haven't even had a chance to reflect. But overall, I loved it. Like, I'm happy it's here. But I can't help trying to pick at it. I can't help it.
You know what I want? In truth, I want them to cut it together as an hour-and-a-half film. That's what I want. I want to be able to sit down, watch it from start to finish as a movie, because I think that will be a really interesting experience, because there is something structurally that just doesn't quite gel with me, and I don't know what it is, and I've not really been able to put my finger on it. But I wonder if it's actually that this is a film broken up into 6 parts. And I wonder if maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know, but it would be that. I know they're doing that. They're doing that in the States. I think they're releasing it in some cinemas, and you can go watch like an hour and a half of Obi-Wan in the thing. So that would be cool. But maybe Caleb will get to do that. But yeah, that's maybe what I want. But you know, that's picky, isn't it?
It is funny because this Star Wars has always had this episodic televisual feel to it. And I've always said that one of the criticisms, or not criticisms, but I think one of the ways I've been able to rationalize some of the weaker components of Star Wars is that rather than looking at them as these movie events, I look at them as episodes of a season. And you will have good episodes and you will have weaker episodes. You know, there can be weak episodes in a season of Game of Thrones, but you can still say it was an amazing season. Or a weak episode in Succession, you can still say what an amazing season that was. And I would look at like Phantom Menace as the clunky pilot for what would ultimately become a great season of television, you know, something like that. And that's always helped me kind of understand and kind of process Star Wars. The same with, like, you know, feeding in the animation series and things like that into all those movies then as well. For me, this is the best Star Wars movie that wasn't a movie. It was of every story we've come across, this is the one that felt the most like a great epic movie. Like, you kind of feel like if Peter Jackson was making Star Wars in 2001, instead of Lord of the Rings. This is kind of what we might have gotten, this epic journey of real growth and real kind of just vengeance oozing through the characters and torment and everything. It was loaded with so much cool stuff.
It's
I
quite
really,
classical, I suppose, isn't it? In the themes and the stuff he's using, it's almost there are Shakespearean elements of this here. I think I mean, they've always been kind of that there, but I think even in the growth, so beautifully played by Ewan McGregor, the growth of that character and the changes in that character and the way it's represented, and also in the way it's done with costume design as well. You start with we laughed about this, I think, in the first one, John, but he starts off in not Jedi robes. Honest, they're not. And then he kind of, he starts to move a little bit more towards the Force, and he gets his kind of over punching my microphone. He gets his like over waistcoat robe thing, and then by the end he's in his Jedi robes again. It's a nice and actually to that point, it's a nice way of sort of explaining why old Ben Kenobi's in Jedi robes, even though he's in hiding at the beginning of A New Hope. There we go. We've solved that plot hole. Thank you very much.
They've closed a lot of loops and plot holes, haven't they? Here that we were constantly worried about the master and apprentice thing, like his relationship with Leia, like. They delivered it. We were all going, well, how does she not remember him? And blah, 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 blah. And like,
even something as simple as in A New Hope when Vader says, "You're only a master of evil, Darth," as if that's his first name. And I lost my mind watching this episode this morning. And he says, something like, "Anakin is dead. Well then, whatever, Darth," and it's like, I'm like, yeah, if Anakin is no longer here, then who am I talking to? I'll just call you something else then. And I thought, brilliant. They really did close so many loops. They've taken really like master levels of storytelling going on there in terms of like, given the challenge that they had to give us something new that contributes something new, while at the same time not ruffling any feathers for people who are precious about the original. You can go and watch A New Hope now, and it is a different movie in many ways. Like, and not in a way where it's been retconned or anything like that. It doesn't feel like we've retconned anything. It doesn't feel like, oh, that's what that means now or anything like that. It's just, they've just given so much more weight to these little lines here and there. When Leia says, "You're my only hope," yeah. He's the only one who would have saved her when she was 10 years old. You know
what's so nice as well? Like you jump forward to the sequel trilogy. She calls her son Ben, and you think at the time I was like, that's cool, I like that, but whatever. That has so much more weight now. Like, of course he was her childhood savior. Of course you're going to call him your son Ben. What a wonderful kind of, again, a closed loop. That
Who's the person that she would want her son to aspire to be like? Ben Kenobi. Everyone should aspire to be like Ben Kenobi, shouldn't it? It's amazing. It's really great. We'll talk about episode 5 quickly. So we get the big siege. Reva's come down with the stormtroopers. The refugees and so on are all kind of hunkering down. Leia's trying to get the uncross the wires or plug the Ethernet cable back in or whatever it is, and get the Wi-Fi doors open. I don't know.
The HDMI cable,
yeah. And it's very much we're just
you're trying to find. She was trying to reset the router. It was a 128-bit. You could see the lights on it. You could see it happening.
Did she try turning it off and on again? Is what I want to know.
And they're really just buying time while they're trying to break down the door, and the refugees are trying to escape. And Obi-Wan confronts Reva, and we get that great revelation about her backstory. We knew she was connected to Order 66. There was no doubt about that. Were you surprised that she was actually that all this was to do with getting revenge on Vader, or were you expecting something else? Like, how did you react to
that? It felt a bit, I don't know, it felt a bit too obvious for me, because I think we kind of called it early on that she was the Padawan, right? We were like, yeah, that's her, Order 66, there she is in the Jedi Temple. And that was it. It was the revenge story that it looked like it was supposed to be. I almost expected it to be something else, because it was so Route One, and it was so like, yes, this is the story that we're not quite telling you, but it felt almost too easy to figure out. I liked that she wanted revenge on Darth Vader, but for me, it also felt like it could have been stronger if she wanted both of them. Because in a way, they're both complicit in what's happened here. And, he created Vader in many ways.
Yeah.
She as he's torturing himself.
Bit, I think, doesn't she? She sort of says, I think she does say that at one point.
Yeah, she said, "Where were you?"
She says, "Where were you?" But he doesn't even answer it.
No.
I was at the shops. Like, I was busy. I was doing something. But he doesn't...
The answer as to where he was, that's the one thing that bothered me about that moment. I love the moment. I did enjoy that moment quite a lot, where it's where he's like, how did you know he was Anakin? Because Anakin wouldn't want that known. And I thought, these are nice questions to be asking. Like, that's Detective Obi-Wan coming out that you get in Attack of the Clones, Again, my favorite movie. And so it's like, I love that movie because it's like a private eye looking to solve a case. And it's like the bodyguard fall in love with it anyway. So I was just, anything that has Detective Obi-Wan, I'm all in. And that moment you can see he's like, why were you calling him Anakin? And I thought that was really interesting. But the only thing that annoyed me about her saying, where were you? I'm like, yeah, he was off fighting General Grievous. That was out of his hands, actually. Whereas actually there's a part of me that wishes we could go back, rewrite Revenge of the Sith a little bit, and just have him doing something that was maybe regretful instead, so that he can actually yeah, I know I failed you guys. But actually, no, you were ending the war.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think back to the Clone Wars, the final series of the Clone Wars, because you get all of that running parallel to Revenge of the Sith, and you see Ahsoka and all of that. But there is a little bit of Obi-Wan. He does pop up as a hologram, and he says something to Ahsoka, and I can't remember what it is now. But I feel as though that would be significant. This is Filoni's thing as well. So I think I have to look that up at some point, because I feel like there's something significant there for sure. But yeah,
what did you think? What did you think, Marcus, about the that revelation?
Yeah, you know what? This is a show that I don't think is supposed to surprise you, because all the main characters are getting out alive. Like, all the characters that you go into caring about are getting out alive, apart from Reva, I suppose. But that wasn't one of those moments. So I think I wasn't surprised, but I also wasn't expecting to be. I was expecting. I like the fact that that's what it is. I like the fact that that's what motivates her. And you're right, Brad, in that it is quite Route One, but I also don't really mind that it's quite Route One. I think because it is. I think it is the motivation she needed to do that, and also it's very interesting to see. It's a very interesting idea to see a youngling pop up again later on, who survived that and who survived the purge and looked Vader, Anakin in the face. That's a cool idea, and that's a cool thing to play with. I think they probably could have gone about it in a different way, because suddenly, you get to the end of this episode 5, and Vader's like, "You think I did not see?" And it's like, well, we didn't know you saw. That could have been quite nice to have something. But then how do you emote through a mask? I don't know. I'm nitpicking, but I didn't hate it. I thought it was all right, and I liked that. I liked it as a character motivation, even if I wasn't kind of thrown back by it, as it were.
I liked that they didn't just rest on the Jedi failed me, therefore I now want to kill all Jedi. They could have just left it at that, because I think that was everyone's assumption, but they just added just a little bit more seasoning to it, and it became, yeah, I want to punish Jedi because they failed me. You can tell that she is angry with Jedi in general. Like, and there's that moment where she says, I used to have a droid once, where in episode 4, I think, when she's catches Lola. And I was thinking to myself, because they also, Obi-Wan explains how he was taken from his family when he was young. And, there's all these little bits and pieces adding up that show that Jedi younglings are taken from they are plucked out of another life, whether that's for good or bad. And when she said, I used to have a droid, I'm thinking to myself, she could be talking about a life she had before the Jedi found her. And how much of a choice do they have? Like I think they're in being recruited. Like and I think there's a lot of interesting kind of questions that are coming out. So I do see her as somebody who is very, very raw about, rightly so, but towards everybody, Sith or Jedi. And I liked that she's indiscriminate. She will punish the Sith just as quickly as she will punish the Jedi, and I haven't seen somebody like that in Star Wars yet. Maybe there are characters like that, but I found that to be a unique trait. I don't know.
She's quite neutral, yeah. I think I want to see her again. I want to see her again in something else. I have no doubt we will, because of the nature of kind of the way stuff is made these days. Because I do feel as though, I suppose it was kind of inevitable that her storyline was kind of going to be pushed to one side, because we want to see Vader go up against Obi-Wan. We want to see Obi-Wan and Leia. That's the stuff that we want to see. And I do feel as though the development that she had probably was lesser than perhaps it could have been. The kind of the whole thing of her becoming the thing that she has always despised, and becoming the thing that despised in the first place. I think that's actually a line from Revenge of the Sith. But there's a nice parallel there, and it's Star Wars, so it's also got more feeling to itself. But I do feel as though we could have had a little bit more of that, and perhaps in a different series we'd have a bit more opportunity to explore her as a character without it feeling as if we're rushing to get past her so we get back to Obi-Wan Kenobi swinging a lightsaber. I think that would be nice to see a bit more of her in the future.
Yeah, it felt like with Reva there was certain parts of it, the story and the character were trying too hard. I don't know if you guys felt the same way. It was like every time she did a big swing with that lightsaber, she screamed. And it's like, the dudes don't do that. Why is she doing it? They've tried to build Reva up into like the antagonist, or at least the sidekick antagonist of this show, but then they've sort of over masculinized. Is that a word? They've masculated the character in like a really weird way, and there were certain parts of it I was like, why is she doing that? Like, she could have been really interesting, but no, she's gone for this like really brutish kind of approach, which for me it didn't fit the character and the casting. For me, that bit didn't fit. I wasn't too sure about that.
She is portrayed as almost like a snake-like character in the first episode. Actually, like she has this way of just kind of looking around her, and she can read the room faster than the Grand Inquisitor can, and she's like the Velociraptor, if this was a Jurassic Park movie, she's like she's got you from 100 yards away, and she was presented as like this real predatory character, brilliant, like this great hunter character, and yeah, I did see a transition into, but then I chalked that kind of anger up to this is the moment she's been waiting for. There must have been other opportunities for her to get to Vader in the past, which doesn't totally add up in my book, unless the idea was she wanted both Obi-Wan and Vader. But I have to say though, I did enjoy the Vader doing his Bruce Lee stuff, where he doesn't need a lightsaber, and that's the thing I think people have been asking for a while, is that Jedi not using lightsabers in their fights, because that was the whole thing people had with Yoda in Attack of the Clones, was that why does he use a lightsaber? Surely he's beyond all that. And here we are seeing Vader not feeling like he needs the lightsaber. And what did you think of Vader being a badass from top to bottom in this episode?
I mean, seriously, that's just so great, isn't it? Like he is. This is peak Vader, right? This is Vader at the peak of his power. This including in that Rogue One level Vader. This sort of 10-year period, I think, is him when he is Master Vader, and it was just so wonderful to behold, wasn't it? Just to sit there and see that, and I kind of, in a weird way, having seen peak Vader, like that, I understand a little bit more why people were angry about being robbed of peak Luke. I kind of get that a little bit more now in the Last Jedi and stuff like that. I kind of am understanding. I have a little bit more sympathy for that viewpoint now. It's not really relevant to this. I just it was interesting to see that comparison. But yeah, man, it was great. It was so great.
Yeah, everyone I've spoken to is like, it's full strength Vader. We have got it. We've got full strength Vader, and it's terrifying. I mean, stopping the ship is just like, yes. I knew they could do that. I always felt that someone could do that, and it's like, yes, Vader has done it, and he tears that wall off, and it's
amazing.
It's just
yeah,
brilliant. It's just absolutely amazing. I mean, it did bring more questions than answers for me. Like, well, why did he just crush people like in a second if he can rip the side off of a space freighter? Like, can't he just like crush a human body? But maybe it's the Force that protects them. I don't know. But yeah, he's terrifying. It was nice to see something, like I say, something you presumed that someone who was really strong with the Force would do, and he's just doing it. It's just really hard, isn't it?
he's a prick as well. Like he just I think that's kind of what it is. I think he likes toying with people. That whole sequence with Reva, I think it's even that in his body language it's as if he just doesn't. She is not worthy of him to duel. She is just not even in the same level. Like, he grants that respect to Obi-Wan because of their history together. But for her, he's just like, no, I'm just going to do this. I'm not even going to draw my lightsaber. I'm going to use half of your lightsaber. We're going to have a fight for 2 seconds, and I'm going to take it back. And because you are just not even on my level. I love that.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that to me was the masterstroke of this episode. The point of this episode was, this is the episode where he realizes, I'm still the student. You see that brilliant flashback of Anakin and Obi-Wan, where Obi-Wan is giving him a lesson, and they are both sharing that memory throughout their present day journey. And the point of the lesson is recalled by Vader after Obi-Wan escapes. And he realizes, you said that, how can you emote with the helmet on? Vader has always been able to emote with that helmet on. When Vader looks to Luke and then to the Emperor and then back to Luke, and he's saying, Father, help me, you might as well not be wearing the mask. You can see those, you can't obviously, but you can feel those expressions that he's making inside, right? And that was a one moment where, like, they cut to Vader watching the ship leave, and you just know exactly what's going on under that helmet, And then there is an arrogance about Vader in this season that the Emperor kind of scolds him for in episode 6 a little bit, like, are we done with this now? And at the same time, like, yeah, in episode 6, Vader, Obi-Wan almost leaves him for dead, because of his arrogance. He has so much to learn, and it'll be 10 more years before he'll confidently be able to say, you say peak Vader. It's peak Vader with his powers, but it's not Master Vader yet. That was my reading of it anyway. I don't know, but it was a masterful episode.
But even 10 years later, I'm skipping ahead a little bit here to episode 6, but Vader, Obi-Wan does exactly what he's going to do in A New Hope, and he leaves him. Like, he leaves him standing there. He wins hands down, but he doesn't kill him, and it's so much more powerful, and it's so great. Like I mentioned earlier on, we know that everyone gets out alive, and it could be that could be a problem, but the screenwriting here uses that to your advantage, and it uses it to this. It massively uses it to the advantage, because we know he's not going to get out of here, so we need to make that clever. We need to make that interesting. We need to make that character beat that he's going to be left there, and it's so much more devastating for Vader that he is left there like that. And that whole sequence, like we've seen it before. We've seen it in Rebels when he's going up against Ahsoka, and you see his face kind of unveiled, and you see Anakin underneath it. But to see that in live action with Hayden Christensen there and him swapping between the James Earl Jones voice and Hayden Christensen. Oh my, it's heart stopping. He's Obi-Wan. Oh God, it's incredible. It was an amazing moment, and I saw it coming. I knew they would do that at some point because I thought we have to have a reason why Hayden Christensen's in the mask. So I knew they'd do it. There's a precedent for it in Rebels, and I was kind of a little bit eye-rolly about it beforehand because I thought, they're going to do this thing, and it's just going to be a rehash of the same thing. But it's so much better, and it's so needed because now we've seen it in live action, and it's just, my God, extraordinary.
Yeah, and it's
the fact they did the segment, right? They didn't just go the whole face.
Yeah.
Like, I think if they'd gone the whole face, it would have just been a bit like, oh, okay. Well, there he is with his zombie makeup on. It was just the quadrant of his face. I thought it was fantastic how they choose to do
beautiful. That. And, you could see there's obviously a clear symbolism there of, half Anakin, half Vader. But it's not. It's all Vader because his face is scarred to hell. And and the red light is illuminating his face and everything. It's almost like they're trying to, I mean, they obviously know what they're doing, but it's like they're trying anywhere else, it would be like the Harvey Dent kind of look where it's half man, half monster kind of thing. But it's not, he's all monster. It's just whether he's wearing the mask or not, he is still Vader. And I love that moment. I think that will forever be my favorite Vader moment. The voice box, everything, as you say, was incredible. Might as well just jump into episode 6. So this was, I was so worried they would drop the ball on episode 6 only because I assumed the end of, they'd said, oh, don't worry, there'll be another fight after the fire showdown. And I assumed when we got the flashback, I thought, oh, that's the other side. We get one where it's Vader and Obi-Wan, or Vader and Ben, Obi-Wan and Anakin, past and present, and that's it. And the rest will just be trying to outsmart Vader rather than fighting him, And I assumed that was the last we would see of Vader in this story because he walks away with the Grand Inquisitor. They kind of walk away almost as if they're done with this business. And Reva's just left her own, and then she's going to go off and find Luke. And I thought, okay, it's going to go back to Tatooine now, and it's going to be more about just that and getting the show that we thought we were getting originally. But I thought there's a lot you can kind of get wrong there. And there was so many things I still wanted. I wanted my Emperor hologram. I was so happy when I got that. I wanted some Star Destroyer stuff. I wanted, show me some space battle, because it's Star Wars. And I wasn't done with Anakin yet. And to give us so much in that episode, they crammed so much in that episode. It's only about 10 minutes longer than the other episodes. And it feels like I watched like a 90-minute movie.
So the fight, because I was like, oh, this is the end. So the fight where we see the Vader's face, is 26 minutes or something. I was like, what?
Oh, wow.
Still like half left. What's going on? It was great. It was really good. I was like, this is wonderful that they're just jamming it in there because it's working. It's not like, it doesn't feel rushed.
Yeah.
It feels hectic, but it's supposed to.
I had my issues with the pacing of some aspects of this series, and looking at the whole picture now, I realize this is giving you what you want, knowing that you'll want more afterwards, and so making room so you can have more. And that's, we don't wait until episode 4 or 5 to get Vader. We get Vader and a duel and everything right there in episode 3, and it is a disaster, in terms of, like, for Obi-Wan, but it's great television, And that's not the end. The next episode won't have anything, but and episode 5 will have just so much Vader again, and episode 6 will have so much of it. And it really is like, stuff your face on this stuff. You've been waiting long enough. Have your fill.
Yeah.
And I've never felt so satisfied coming out of a TV show before.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's so many visual things going on there. Like the Vader had the high ground. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it. I stood up and I punched the air because he had the high ground, and I was and I'm pleased that they did hold back a little bit because I could almost see him looking down and going, "Look, Master, I have the high ground," or something like that. And I would have loved it, but it would have been probably too much. But and what really makes me laugh as well is that there's so much of Well, actually, is an interesting thing there. The whole, as an attitude that Star Wars has to the Jedi and the Jedi kind of the way they look at the world, the thing that motivated Obi-Wan to get out of that pit and move the rocks, which Luke says on several occasions, being a Jedi is not just about moving rocks, and there we go, moving rocks.
It's all about rocks.
Always the rocks.
Always the rocks. But B, he the thing that motivates him to get out is actually attachment. It's his attachment to Leia. It's his attachment to Luke and his attachment to the mission, I suppose. Perhaps it's duty, but I read that as attachment to the people that mean something to him. And you're told constantly that Jedi are anti-attachment, and there you have it. There we are laying the groundwork for Luke's eventual decision that actually maybe the Jedi were wrong later on. And it's such wonderful, it's so cool to see them retroactively laying the groundwork for that sequel trilogy. And I reckon if they keep going the way they're going and they keep setting films in this time and space, we'll get 5 years down the line and that trilogy will have a whole different look to it because they've spent so much time retroactively improving it through other bits of content. I don't know.
It's just a whole new world, isn't it? I mean, we just watched a 6-part series, which is a sequel to the prequels, but a prequel to the original series and the sequels, and they've just made it now, and the original series was 45 years ago, whatever. It's like, how is this happening in our life, like in our lifetime?
And how does it feel so seamless?
Yeah,
like you could visual effects have obviously improved massive over time, and Anakin in that flashback is way too old. But if ever there was de-aging needed, maybe. But
I thought they tried to de-age him, but I think it was a slightly dodgy light effect from the lightsaber. I wasn't sure.
They've given themselves nowhere to hide though, because they're putting these two slightly de-aged characters in broad daylight, like bright Coruscant daylight. You think, oh my god, use the lightsaber light for God's sake. Put them in a darkened room. What are you doing? But I mean,
Marcus, you in your darkened room with the deep fakes.
It's the way to do it, man. I just honestly,
get with the times, Marcus. De-aging is here to stay.
Doesn't look right though. I will die on this hill until they improve it. I will die on this hill. That
this
Luke
dark
Skywalker,
and this dark under uplit hill.
Yeah, give me a dark uplit hill, and then maybe I'll believe that video game character is real. But until then, I do not. Though I did think those DH characters were nice, to be fair.
What you mentioned, Leia, the attachment, pulling him out of the rocks and the rubble and all that. I've been pitching this since day one, since episode 1. Qui-Gon's going to be the guy who'll appear to Obi-Wan at his lowest moment and get him back on the horse. It's the obvious thing to do, right? And I was like, this is the moment. And as it was happening, I was thinking, there's no real room for Obi-Wan to make an appearance, or for Qui-Gon to make an appearance here, is there? Because he's buried under rocks. It's not like he's going to be huddled under the rocks with him. I thought maybe he'll like pull himself up just enough where he can see daylight, and he looks up and it's not Vader, it's Qui-Gon standing above him saying, what are you waiting for? But I loved that they didn't go down that road. Qui-Gon appearing at the end is the reward for him getting closure, for him finding himself in the finding that communion with the Force again. For him, it's returning to the path, not that path, but the Force, finding his way again in life. And it was Leia, as you say, it was the attachments to the characters he found on this journey. It would have been, I think. Again, I don't want to be bashing kind of, some of the creative decisions that Lucas would have made back in the day, but I think the decision Lucas might have made would have been, it'll be Qui-Gon or it'll be somebody else, like the way Rey was inspired by all the Jedi of the past. No, Rey really should have been inspired by the people above her who are fighting, It's the characters that you've encountered along the way that should be the ones bringing you forward. Why else are they in these stories then, and if Leia is not the perfect motivator for Obi-Wan to get out of the rubble, get up, you bum, it's that Rocky thing,
Yeah.
And it is just masterful. It really was. And him pummeling Vader with rocks. Boulders the size of, he's pummeling him. And I thought, this is it. The helmet's coming off.
Yeah.
You know, and I would like to have seen a bit of a crack or a bit of a deterioration on the helmet. So I have a theory. You know, in episode 4, Fortress Inquisitorius, whatever it is, and he hacks at the stormtroopers with the lightsaber, and it kind of doesn't really cut through them like you'd expect.
Yeah.
I mean, I always thought lightsabers should cut through a stormtrooper, right? And it doesn't. It feels like he's just hitting him with a baton or something.
Just falling.
I have a feeling they changed the rules of a lightsaber in that so that he doesn't decapitate Vader with, you know, so that we can get the helmet coming off without peeling off his face at the same time, you know, because you would lose that amazing opportunity for him to see Anakin's face again. But in order to allow that to happen, you need to just change the way the lightsaber works, the strength of a lightsaber a little bit. And I feel like that's what they did. Maybe there's precedent in other movies or cartoons for that, but I was wondering at the time, why aren't the stormtroopers just in half right now?
There's 100% precedent for it. Like, it goes back to Empire Strikes Back. Like Luke and Vader on the in Cloud City. Luke absolutely whacks him one on the side, and he just goes, "Oh!" He gets a little like,
"Oh, does he?" Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's definitely, there's something in there, whether it's Beskar or whatever it is. There's something in there mixed in with that stops a lightsaber a little bit. I reckon if you have it away, it'd probably be all right.
Okay.
I think
I wonder if there's a sharp edge on a lightsaber. You know, maybe you hit him with like the side or something.
Well, look, it's been buried in sand for a while. It's probably a bit blunt, isn't it?
Yes, it's got sand all through it, like, all over the kyber crystal. He didn't even bother cleaning it out.
There are also, by the time you get to that last film, The Rise of Skywalker, there are so many lightsabers buried in that backyard.
Yes,
because presumably, like, you've got Leia's and Luke's, and then you've also got this double one that is presumably just going to be buried there now. So many knocking around. Like, anyone could just go up and be like, "Oh, look at this brilliant lightsaber! This is so great."
Is it safe? I mean, buried munitions are dangerous, right? Like, they could be endangering people. What are they thinking?
Yeah, it's very, very irresponsible of them, to be honest.
Reva's pursuit of Luke. What do we think about that? I wasn't totally gone on it, but I liked that it came back to Tatooine at the end.
Yeah, I felt it was this was one of those. This was the victim, I think, of trying quite hard to find a place for her, to make her kind of point of it, and to bring it back to Tatooine. It felt a bit forced, pardon the pun. And it felt a little bit sort of shoehorned. I didn't really buy it. I also don't really get the whole Beru saying, "No, he just needs us." No, he doesn't. Are you kidding? He doesn't just need you at all. Run. Go anywhere else. He knows where what a stupid decision.
Explain to me why. I've only saw the episode once this morning, but why was she there in the first place? Because I thought, at the end of the last episode, I thought, okay, she's got a plan up her sleeve here. Maybe she's figured out, or she's going to figure out, this is the son of Skywalker, blah, blah, blah. And maybe it'll be back into, you want your son, come and find me, or I don't know, something like that. It's a chance to get back to Vader, or to get revenge on Vader. I'm going to kill your son or something. But she doesn't even know any of that stuff.
I thought that was exactly, that was my reading of it. It was that was exactly what it was.
Yeah, because she said, "I want to get, I need justice. I want to, this is for him," kind of thing.
Yeah, you killed my
she knows that Vader has 2 children now.
Yeah. Or one. I think it says the boy, because it's a broken message, right?
Oh, yeah.
It says the children, the boy, Tatooine.
Skywalker.
But how would she, I'm not seeing the evidence of how she could put the pieces together. That's the problem.
Because she's good detective.
Okay.
In that first episode, they're on Tatooine, and Owen encounters her, doesn't he? And then he says in that broken message, Owen will need help with the boy, and so she gets Skywalker, children.
There's no mention of Skywalker.
Yeah. I'm sure. Is there not?
I don't think so. Like that's I could be wrong, but I don't think. Or he says anything. I think he says. Maybe I'm wrong.
He says if he finds out about the children.
Yeah.
I think.
I don't know. It didn't jump out to me at the time as being as being a stretch. It made sense at the time. I could have sworn she said something about Skywalker, but
Maybe she did, but I just remember at the thinking I was enjoying it at the moment, but then afterwards I was thinking, what was her interest in those kids? I understand
it was
why.
a leap. It was a leap, right, for her to get there. But likewise, it was a leap to really know that Anakin was Vader for me. I mean, she knew what Obi-Wan knew, and Obi-Wan didn't put it together. Obi-Wan knew a Vader, right? He knew there was a Vader, but he didn't know it was Anakin. She told him it was Anakin. But all that she knows is that he did Order 66, which Obi-Wan also saw, and now she works with this dude in a mask. And was there something I missed? Like, did she put that together? Just she knew? Did she sense it or something? Like, there was a few things where her understanding just jumped forward, I thought, and it wasn't necessarily clear cut.
The only thing that she knew that Obi-Wan didn't know is that Anakin or Vader at that point survived Mustafar. Obi-Wan didn't know that he had survived on that. He left him for dead, and he didn't know.
Did she know that?
Yeah, she must have done, because she saw. She
said he's alive. Anakin's alive.
She saw Anakin in the temple killing all her little youngling mates.
And then he would have been referred to as Vader in that moment as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So she would have seen Anakin referred to as Vader, and then Vader pops up in a mask later on. So she would have put that together. I agree with you. It's a bit of a leap. You've got to do some narrative jump rope to get.
I can get behind the look. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he does say Skywalker. If he does, then he's an idiot for saying that. In the message. I mean, like. It's just a bit of unnecessary overkill or unnecessary exposition for Bale. But anyway, yeah. So, I mean, it was nice to see Owen earning his space at the table, so to speak, in terms of Star Wars. Or, I mean, he's just gone way up, I think, in everybody's esteem now. And go and watch A New Hope again. And that is a totally different character to what you saw before. And the tragedy of their deaths actually has a bit more resonance now than it did before. If it wasn't already painful enough for Luke to see these people, now there's real also you completely get now why Owen is as strict as he is, because there was a woman came for us and we barely survived.
That's true.
And it was her conscience that saved us,
She had us beat. Like there was we couldn't do anything wrong. It's nice to just whopping great big bit of fan service, but it's nice to have Obi-Wan meeting Luke at that point and kind of having that little moment.
Yeah,
it was
hello there.
Lovely.
Yeah,
lovely.
What a great line. Yeah, and they just leave it, and that's wonderful. And then it ends with him riding off into the sunset with Qui-Gon. And
he took his time, that guy.
He did,
but he was always there. He just wasn't ready to see it. He just wasn't ready to see him. And now he is, because his arc is complete, all that kind of stuff.
Is this season 2 bait, do you think?
I was going to say this, all right? I was going to pitch this to you. Who's the other character that we would all love to see Obi-Wan go to town on with a lightsaber?
Darth Maul.
He's now got his sidekick, Qui-Gon, who was killed by Maul. And Maul is out there, Crimson Dawn, all that stuff. I mean, how do you top Vader? Like, if this became a returnable series where Obi-Wan in each season is going head to head with a former enemy, then how do you top the excitement that people have for the rematch of the century between? I mean, it's between Vader and or Anakin and Obi-Wan, the rematch of the century, and how do you top that? You do the duel of the fates, battle, and
that would be great.
And it would set up for Rebels as well, when Anakin has his Obi-Wan has his encounter with Maul there. And there's a real parallel there, because this is a show that's bridging Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, and you could also do something where season 2 then bridges Phantom Menace and Rebels.
Yeah, this is a sticky show, isn't it? This is sticking eras of Star Wars together, series, and and product to get together. That's exactly what this show is doing. So it would make sense to weld those two things together with Maul as well. Oh man, I'd watch the hell out of that show.
Do you think we would get? Do you think we get a second season?
I'd like one, but I don't know. It feels like they've done everything. They've done all the stuff that you want to see. Yes, it'd be great to see more. But you've had they've done Vader already. It feels like they've blown all the big set pieces in Series 1 because they made it as a standalone. There might be an opportunity to do a second one, and yes, I definitely watch it, but I think it would be a less... Well, I don't know. We could say that about many things, and it's turned out differently. You know, for example, the middle 2 episodes of Boba Fett, we didn't expect that.
That's true.
You know, there are things that can happen that can surprise us still, but it felt like an ending. It felt like, I know it isn't the ending narratively to Obi-Wan's character, but it felt like the end to his story. It felt like this is it, because they really sold it in, and they were really tugging on the heartstrings, and they were closing... Although from the middle, weirdly, they were closing this circle. Like it felt like,
yeah. And I've always said A New Hope is masterpiece of. I think the first 30 minutes, the first act of that film is one of the best pieces of cinema you'll ever see, whether you're a fan of fantasy or sci-fi or not. But I do think there are parts of A New Hope that just don't really have the oomph factor that we would get now from cinema, and it's the 10 X-Wings blow up a Death Star, that's a bit like, it wasn't that great of a weapon then, or it wasn't that, big of a stronghold then really, if 10 X-Wings were able to destroy it. But Rogue One shows you actually thousands of people died for that final shot to be taken, and this feels like, it almost feels like if we thought that the rematch was in A New Hope, it's not, it was here. And what's happening in New Hope is Obi-Wan just simply waiting for him to strike him down. It's like, this is the plan. Like, I know, like, it's not even a proper showdown now, because it's like you feel Obi-Wan doesn't even intend to beat him. Obi-Wan doesn't intend to, like, he's already had his victory.
Yeah.
And it's not like he's just saying, okay, I can't win this. This is a no-win situation anyway. So I might as well just
make it worth something.
Make it worth something. But now it just feels like, if I ever see Vader again, I'm gonna let him think he's got the better of me, or something. Because I'm gonna be off then with Qui-Gon, so.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the way they set that up at the end there with that comment he said to that whole thing with Leia, he said, "What do you think I should do?" It's he's opened himself up. What do you think I should do? Well, whatever you want. He said to Owen, he just needs you to protect him. I mean, also, I wholeheartedly disagree about that. They have proved themselves to be utterly useless in protecting. Stick around. But it does set up it sets up something else to come afterwards. And Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon walking off into Beggar's Canyon as well, which I loved. That's where Anakin... Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's where Anakin did his pod racing, and where Luke would bullseye Womp Rats in the future. I'm pretty sure it was that anyway. Them walking off together feels like there's something more. And maybe we come back to them and they're doing their training, and he feels a disturbance in the Force, and it's Maul, and you retread that whole thing in of Luke and Yoda, and he's saying, you're not ready to do that. I have to go and do this now. And we explore that. Maybe he dismantles some crime networks. That'd be cool. I'd love to see that. Like,
Detective Obi-Wan.
Yeah, Detective Obi-Wan.
That's it. That's what John wants. What John wants to see.
Ben Kenobi.
I think it'd be hard because they've walked a tightrope without a safety net, and they've made it across. Like, I think they might just go, I'm not doing that again. I've had enough. Like, we made it across. We are safe. I mean, they've already done. I mean, if you look at the weight of the characters in Star Wars, so Obi-Wan and Vader have now been played more by Christensen and McGregor. Like, they are now the heaviest weight. They've now done more hours as those characters than
just on that point. If you go on Disney Plus and hit the Kenobi catalog that they've got now,
okay,
you'll see they've got this lovely banner with different versions of Kenobi, and Alec Guinness doesn't feature in it. They've got young McGregor, Phantom Menace McGregor. They've got I think, or prequels McGregor, TV series McGregor, or Obi-Wan. And then they've got Clone Wars Obi-Wan, the cartoon. And then they've got Alec Guinness from Rebels, but not Alec Guinness from A New Hope. So they took 1 or 2 episodes or whatever that was of more value to Lucasfilm than the actual 3 movies that Alec Guinness actually appeared in. I mentioned in one of our previous discussions, do Lucasfilm actually care about the original trilogy anymore? Does it have value for them as a franchise moving forward? Are young audiences just discovering Star Wars actually interested in the old films, so to speak? It is feeling more and more that they don't actually they're not putting stock in that anymore.
So I think there is always going to be an influence on the younglings with Star Wars, that it's unavoidable. I mean, my daughter hasn't seen Star Wars. She's 7. I'm constantly like, she's nearly there. I can sit down and watch A New Hope with her, because that's the first one I'm going to watch. I'm going to watch it in the right order. But the other day, my neighbour called Toby. She called him Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was like,
brilliant.
How do you know that name? Like, and how did you put that together like that? But it was like, she just knows the name. Like, she's obviously heard me banging on about it constantly, but like, I haven't spoken to her about it.
There are people with Pandora charms of Vader's helmet and BB-8 and all them, and they've never seen a Star Wars movie. Like, it's it's incredible.
My wife was I cannot, as much as I try, I cannot get her to watch Star Wars with me. I can't do it. But then a few years ago, she was doing something I can't remember, and she described herself as Panicking Skywalker, and I went,
nice.
That's the best thing I've ever heard.
What? Because she thinks you're going to make her watch it? Is that?
Yeah, maybe that's why she was panicking. Yeah,
she's panicking.
She's panicking Skywalker. Yeah, so great. But you're right. Yeah, go on, John.
Sorry, go on, Marcus. No.
Well, no, just the I think there always has to be an influence on what comes next. And I think what will be interesting, to be fair, is when we get sort of 10, 20 years down the line, if they're still making Star Wars content. I mean, let's face it, they're probably going to be making Star Wars content. So I think what's interesting, if you watch the Star Wars gallery stuff on Disney Plus, you get Favreau, Filoni, all these people who are actually, you know what? There's a great round table for Mando Series 1, where you've got Taika Waititi, Favreau, Filoni, Bryce Dallas Howard, the directing team of that first series, and they're talking about the ice cream maker, and they're talking about the I can't remember the guy's name, but it's in the background of Empire. He's running through Cloud City and he's carrying what is clearly just an ice cream maker. And they brought that into Mando Series 1 as the thing he moves the Beskar around it. And it's this deep cut from the original trilogy. So I think what will be really interesting is, because right now, I think it absolutely has an impact, and it absolutely has an influence on it, because these are the films that they grew up watching. These are the films that they that made them love Star Wars. I think what will be interesting is when people who are coming up and they take over the helm of Star Wars in 10, 15, 20 years' time, who came up watching the prequels. And then beyond that, who came up watching The Mandalorian and came up watching the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and stuff like that. At that point, I wonder how much relevance that original trilogy will have. But I think right now it's still there. I think it's still alive and kicking.
But what's interesting is that the DNA of the original trilogy will always weave in, because you can't find one single Star Wars property that isn't directly connected to the original trilogy. Even Mandalorian How many years later has that been made after Return of the Jedi came out? And it's Return of the Jedi Luke appearing, you know, and saving the day. And it's remarkable how, yeah, Lucas will always have a hand in every Star Wars long after, you know, he's retired, you know, he's retired, hasn't he, from the entertainment, from filmmaking. Yeah. I mean, it's okay, before we wrap up, you mentioned you know, people being so inspired by the originals. Brad, you had talked about how it was a little bit classic Star Wars from time to time. I have a big problem with, there are two things I've been complaining about in this show. One is the way the Empire are just inept in this. They are not the scary. They're never scary. Let's be honest. They're more intimidating in shows like Rebels than they are in the movies. Maybe Rogue One shows them in a dark light, in a really scary light. But you know, this is a show that has, in episode 1, a Jedi being strung up in the town as almost like a warning, like it's something out of the Wild West or even something out of the Second World War. And it's pretty dark. It's pretty dark stuff, you know, for the kind of ideas we're playing with here. You know, it's religious persecution and it's hunting people down. It's rounding people up in the middle of the night and shooting them in the streets. And, you know, it's that kind of thing. And Tala even describes a moment like that that she witnessed. And then the rest of the season is, you know, the Jedi. The guy who's clearly a Jedi. From, you know, a mile away, you can see he's a Jedi. Walking right into Fortress Inquisitorius, whatever it's called. And then sneaking Leia out under his jacket as if it's like, you know, two kids standing on top of each other with a big overcoat to get into an R-rated movie, you know? And then you've got a whole siege of stormtroopers breaking down, you know, for the hangar in episode 5. And what, 2 people get killed? One of them actually sacrificed herself, you know, and it's cool.
One of them's point blank. He's literally like that.
Yeah,
he's so close to him.
The stormtroopers cannot shoot anything. Vader stands by and just lets Obi-Wan escape very slowly. I was talking to a friend of mine today. We were joking about it, and you know, there's that episode of The Simpsons where Homer and Bart are trying to get away, and they're getting away slowly in this kind of car, and there's a crowd chasing them on foot. And Skinner says, they're very slowly getting away, you know? And it's this very kind of funny moment where they're just all on foot kind of chasing after them, like, you know, just walking slowly to try and chase after them. And I just felt like that's what Vader's doing in episode 4 or whatever, or episode 3. And there's just lots of that. The Star Destroyer can't shoot anything in episode 6. And as fantastic as the lightsaber duels are, as fantastic as some of the Obi-Wan action stuff is, as intimidating as Vader is, I don't feel like we need an Andor series that's about the birth of the rebellion, presumably, because it just feels like this Empire is going to shoot itself in the foot in a few years if you give it enough time. I don't know. That was a big problem for me, and it was very classic Star Wars in that sense. What were you guys thinking about that?
I didn't pick up on it initially. Now you saying it, I know exactly what you mean. It is classic Star Wars. I think they need to take some steps to make the Empire frightening. And maybe the way to do that, maybe what we need is, isn't there talk on the horizon of an Inquisitors show? Is that, I'm sure I heard something about that, of the Inquisitors hunting down Jedi. Maybe that's what you need, because they work in Rogue One, I think, because Rogue One's a tragedy, right? It's they lose. They're always going to lose. We know they're going to lose, and so the Empire can be scary and they can succeed in their efforts. Maybe we need a tragic show that is entirely devoid of legacy characters, set at a specific time where where we don't know, and that we know, you know. So you have maybe we need the story of this poor Jedi that got strung up at the beginning of Obi-Wan. Maybe we need that, of him being hunted all this time, knowing that it's going to end in tragedy. Because again, we mentioned before, this series has the stakes pretty low. We know that everyone's getting out of it. I think we need something where you are telling the story of ordinary people, or people that aren't connected to this squabbling family, who are like, who you can kill off. I think we need Star Wars Game of Thrones. I think we need Star Wars Game of Thrones with Inquisitors and hunted Jedi
Do you remember when they were going to get the Game of Thrones guys to do Star Wars, and then that didn't work out?
Yeah, that didn't work out, so did it? Yeah. Yikes.
So there has been rumors of a Vader TV show. I don't know if that's actually true. I don't don't think we need one. But the other issue that I have, and I'm weirdly conflicted about how much I really care about this issue. This show has done so much to close the loop on a few different things, and it's just the best bridge between the old and the new, and so on. But if there was ever hope for Vader to be an actually redeemable character in Return of the Jedi, it is out the window now. He stabs a kid to death on top of a bunch of other kids. Like, we see it happen now. We didn't see it before. We saw him turn on his lightsaber in a room and the kids get scared. But now we've seen him strike a kid down. It's just filmed like a Hitchcock movie. You don't actually see it, but you know what I mean? They're not shying away from what Anakin has really done here. On top of all the other... I mean, he kills more young people in this show than he kills adults, right?
I think so, yeah.
And,
yeah.
Like, how do you come back from that? Isn't that something... Or is it just me being too picky? Or is this something that Lucasfilm need to try and remedy moving forward with Vader as a character?
It's an interesting point, because they haven't built more to the story. They've kind of built this story into the existing story. I know there's only a slight difference there, but they have built upon, they're building it into what already exists, right? So they are doing fan service, they're paying homage to so much stuff, like the Star Destroyer chase in six. Is it six? In six. But this also means that they're repeating patterns again and again and again, which sometimes feels like they're doing the same thing again and again. So, like, even in this show, like, how many times were they held up in a rebel environment, and then someone would catch them, and Obi-Wan would go, "Oh, I'll throw myself on the coals," and it just kept happening. I mean, it's a 6-part series, so each one's going to have its own 3 acts or 5 acts or however they did it, and it will feel like that rather than like in a film. But there are things in it where they've had to lean into what existed. So yes, Vader killing those kids, we had to see it. Like, we had to see that because it was only hinted at before. And if they're going to make his redemption arc muddier, that's because they're making him more evil, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, Vader's terrifying in this. He's literally terrifying, like seeing what he can do with the Force, and he's like breaking people's necks and stuff. But like you say, that there are parts of it where they've gone too classic Star Wars, and the peril just bled out of it a little bit. Like the stormtroopers not shooting anyone is just... I was like, just hit them! They're right there! Just shoot them! They walked into a room of like 20 people, and there were 50 of them with automatic weapons. It's like that'd last about 5 seconds. Like, that isn't the snapping the kid's neck and the killing the younglings. It lost some of its darkness, because maybe they are trying to, as you say, how can they build a redemption story into this? Like that, maybe they're trying to soften it towards the end, so we can still get into the classic Star Wars of A New Hope.
I think that also Vader does, of course, Vader is redeemed by his son at the end and all this, that, and the other, but he does die. He doesn't survive. He does, he is punished for his wrongdoing by, he turns into a Force ghost and and whatnot. But the whole thing, I think, is and I think that this show shows that really well, is the duality of that character. Like, he is not Anakin Skywalker, and he becomes Anakin Skywalker again. And I think it's that almost technicality is how they get around it. You can lean into Vader as much as you want. You can make him as evil as you want, because it's not Anakin. It's not Anakin anymore. He's Anakin.
Oh, so is that how you're reading it? So that it is actually almost like another person,
different personality. Yeah, that's the way they've, because they talk about in comic books, and they talk about in series and things like that, how Anakin, Vader killed Anakin, and like in
okay.
Empire, I think Obi-Wan says, it's the certain point of view line. You know, what I told you was true from a certain point of view, because in fact, Vader emerged from Anakin, from what's left. That's, you know, that again is something Vader says in this episode. And he's what's left of Anakin, but he also Anakin is entirely different, and I think that's
you are right. The language they use is very much you didn't kill Anakin, I killed Anakin kind of thing. Yeah, it's very much like, yes, Anakin there's a grave somewhere for Anakin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and I think that's how Obi-Wan can kind of, because that very touching moment where he speaks to Leia about the gifts of her mother and the gifts of her father and things like that. I think that he can sort of look a little more favorably on the past with his apprentice, and maybe look back a little more fondly without so much guilt, because in fact what Vader does is almost absolve Obi-Wan by saying, you know, you didn't do this, I did this to Anakin, and I'm not him anymore. I think it's
good.
Interesting.
That's good stuff, Marcus. That's good stuff. Yeah, that's giving me feels right now. And you may have saved Return of the Jedi for me, actually.
I'm so pleased I could help.
Any final thoughts, guys?
I want another one.
Yes, did
My only thought.
I would definitely watch another one. I think it'd be risky business. Like, I could pick holes in this thing because it's not perfect, but I don't care. I love it. I loved what we got to see. And yeah, I'd see another one.
Okay,
I'd watch another
I'm
one.
going to call it for Andor. Rather than us getting a second Obi-Wan series, which is unlikely, in Andor, Obi-Wan saves the day in one moment and has a cameo like Luke Skywalker does in because he's off walking the earth or whatever it is.
That'll be cool. When is Andor set? Do we know?
I think it's 5 years before Rogue One.
Yeah.
So roughly 5 years after what we've just seen. Then,
so you could have Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are just at each other's throats all the time now because they have to live together. That'd be hilarious.
Would you just tidy up once in a while? I can't. I'm a Force ghost.
Yeah.
I'm an old man. You wouldn't ask an old man to.
Yeah. That's the wrong series. I think that one, John.
Guys, we'll leave it there.
Part with his
what a few weeks it's been, man. I feel like I'm a teenager again watching the prequels, and I'm going to go back and watch the prequels again this weekend. Yeah, thanks everyone. Don't forget, you can get all of our previous reviews and all our other Star Wars content on our YouTube channel or our podcast. We have a Star Wars playlist now on our YouTube channel, so go check that out. Just search for the Script Department wherever you get your podcasts. Hit us up on the website, social media, all that. Just search for the Script Department. Thanks very much, everyone.